Hey there, happy Tuesday. Tonight we are continuing the Splendid Sampler 2. We quilted last night, and tonight we are gonna join that quilt block to these other quilt blocks using the quilt as you go process. So we're gonna go through that whole process tonight. So thank you guys for joining me here. My name is Lissa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for the beginning crafter. And I am here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 9:30 Eastern and 6:30 Pacific. And it's a time that we can relax and craft together for about an hour here in the evening. So thank you guys for joining me. Again, we are working through the Splendid Sampler 2 book. We have about 50 out of the 100 blocks done. And we are doing the quilt as you go process. So as we finish blocks, I've been sewing them into groups of 4, and then we've been quilting them. So this is like a little, here's the batting. This is a little kind of mini quilt. This is what we did last night. And now we're gonna do the quilt as you go process. And that's when you can take these smaller blocks that you've already quilted, so you're not waiting till the end of the quilt, you've already quilted them, and you're gonna join them together to make larger pieces. So that's how I'm doing this particular quilt, the Splendid Sampler 2. So we get to have fun quilting as we go, and then we're joining them. So we're actually joining them with a little sashing piece, and it just looks like it's part of the quilt. You wouldn't know that that's a sashing piece and not, you know, one of these other little center areas. So awesome, you guys. We are going to join last night's to this one tonight. So, all right, I'm going to flip you around. Let's get going. Yeah, one of the really wonderful things about the quilt as you go process is that you can work in smaller pieces like this. Like, I am not going to have a huge giant quilt at the end that I have to do all this quilting on. It also allows me to play with quilting a little bit more. Like, I got really kind of detailed here. You can see a little bit more on the back. I probably would not have done this for a whole quilt, but for a little, 13-inch square like this, it was really fun. It allows me to kind of just play a little bit more and practice quilting, really. That's one of my big goals, is to practice quilting while I work on this quilt. All right, so again, what we're doing is the quilt as you go process. So here's 2 segments, just like the one that we did last night, but I've joined it together with some sashing pieces. So just a couple rectangles, and I have the little guy in the middle there. And on the back, it has like this joining kind of sashing binding piece as well. So you will have these on the back of your piece, but still, it's basically from far away, you wouldn't know it was there. And just the ability to work in these smaller pieces is just really, really great. So this is a section of 2 that I have done, and I do also have a full row. So it's going to be 5 sections wide, my quilt. So this one's all ready, and we are working to get this next section that wide too. We have the 2 on right now. But we have this guy finished, and we also have another one finished that we can put on. So this will be 4, and if we can get one more quilted this week, then we'll already have like just about another row here. Okay, so first up, I am going to square this off. So what that means is I'm just going to kind of get rid of all our excess back and our excess like backing fabric. So we have our perfect square that we're working with, because I want it to be the same size as these pieces. So actually, it has been a while since we've done this, so I'm going to just measure. I believe this was a 13-inch square. Let's just do a double check on it. Okay, yes, so it's a 13-inch square. That's what I wanted to find out. You can also see we've been repairing it a little bit. Here's a little repair. Sometimes our blocks ended up being too small or they shrunk up a little bit while we quilted. So I added little pieces every once in a while in case I needed to make the piece a little bit bigger. I'm not sure if we'll have to do that on this one. So I have a 12.5-inch ruler. I unfortunately do not have a 13-inch ruler. So I'm going to have to just kind of use this as a guide. It looks like I may need to add a little bit here and there. Like this block seems like it's maybe a little bit small. This one too seems like it might be a little bit small, so we may have to add a little bit here and there. As I'm finishing the blocks, I am trying to leave, like this is just applique on, I am trying to leave bigger pieces if I can, but not all of them, you know, are going to end up like that. So let's just see if I can get, I'm going to use the sashing here as my center point. All right, so actually it looks like I might have put a little dot for the center there. Let's just double check to see that's right. So 13 inches would be 6.5. So 6.5 would be right in the center, and 6.5. Yep. Okay. So I did put a little piece of tape there. That must be my little center piece. Yeah, I got quite a bit here that I'm going to have to fix. So we're going to have to do a few repairs, I think, before we get too far here. Okay. So let's start by trimming these two sides. It is 13 inches, but I'm going to just kind of use my 12-inch ruler here, so I'm going to just estimate an extra ½ inch there when I cut. All right, so scares me a little bit. Actually, 6.5. 6.5 should go right down the middle. 6.5 here. So actually, this isn't quite centered, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. Okay, that's more accurate. 6.5 and 6.5. Okay, I better go on that. 6.5 at the bottom. Let's move that. I'm trying to center it in those sashing pieces, the 6.5 lines. I really should kind of actually put a dot in the center there. But all right, I think that's a little bit better. All right, let's give this a go. Ugh, a little scary, but we're doing it. It's always scary cutting, I think. All right, I'm just gonna kind of back do another ½ inch, and then we'll crawl up the edge here. All right, let's just try and rotate it without anything moving. Okay, and we'll get this side. I think everything looks okay still. All right, now I'm going to rotate the whole piece. Well, in theory, I'm going to do the 13 inches, but I got to be a ½ inch away from both sides. So let's just get another ruler out. Just make sure that we're the ½ inch. Okay, I think it's about there. I need to find myself a 13-inch ruler for this, I think. But, all right. I think that's probably pretty good. Again, I'm just kind of looking also at that 6.5-inch lines in the middle there. There, I think that looks okay. All right, let's trim this side too. when you use extra poofy batting, like we used a really kind of like, look how thick that batting is. That's the side view of it. So we had basically extra shrinkage of our fabric because it was so poofy. So it was pulling in the fabric. Like there's a lot of excess fabric on some of these areas, like the cloud, that's a little poofier. So we're using up what outer edge of the fabric we have. So that's why we may have to go back in here and replace some of it and make it a little bit bigger. All right. Let's see what we got from doing that. All right, so this one isn't so bad. This one the fabric goes right up to the edge because we left this block a little bit bigger. These ones could use a little bit of repair along this side. This one might be just... Nah, I think we're gonna have to put it on here because we have more than 1/4 of an inch. And then same with this. So we're actually gonna have to do a lot more repair on here than I would like. We already have a bunch of little white strips cut up for the sashing. I might just sew a bunch of these together and we'll just add it to the bottom edge of this. So we're gonna have to do a little repair before we can get too much further on this. And again, this is just because we didn't start out with a bigger piece. So, all right, let's do it, you guys. Let's sew a little bit of this, and then we'll repair this up real quick here. Okay. So, like I said, I am just going to try and combine some pieces together to quickly make a little repair. Let's get a leader in here. So I'm back to this sewing machine, basically so I can leave the quilting foot on my other machine, and the other machine, the presser foot actually doesn't come up, or not the presser foot, the feed dogs don't come up. They're kind of stuck in the down position, so it's perfect for free motion quilting, but not perfect for any other kind of sewing. All right, I'm just finishing up this really quickly here. Okay. So what we did here is I'm just basically making a long piece that I can sew to this bottom edge and give me a little bit more of an edge because there is too much excess batting and stuff here. And I'm gonna have to do the same thing on this side too. So let's just press this quickly and we'll do the one side and then I'll sew a few more for the other. I think we'll press this open. So a little extra hiccup repair to do today, but if your blocks end up being too small for this, then you can do something like this as well. It works well for mine because I'm using white on all the backgrounds, so the white just kind of blends in. So whenever you can, leave more excess on your block, kind of like we did with this applique one. I never trimmed this block down, so I always had a little bit of excess, and it ended up being perfect. But all these other pieced ones where there is no excess, that's where I'm having issues now. But all right, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this across the bottom edge here. I think I'm going to actually even clip it to hold it in place, and I'm going to sew right along that edge. Then we'll flip this back, and then we can trim it up a little bit. And I'm actually not even going to sew like a whole 1/4 inch. We'll just do like a little 1/8 of an inch seam allowance or so. It's a little bit higher here. All right, up here I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna just bend this up a little bit. It'll be a little goofy, but all right. So let me know, you guys, if you had to do any repairs like this for your quilt as you go. I think this is it's just a quick and easy fix, I think. And it is we probably would have been fine, except for that we are using this extra poofy batting. Jean, I am gonna get connecting these right when I'm done with this repair, or these couple repairs, so I'm hoping to do that yet tonight. And you know, if we don't finish it tonight, I'm continuing this all week, so we'll finish it tomorrow. Seam allowance got away from me. Let's flip him back down. There we go. All right. That's that. Get my leader here. All right, let's see how that worked. And maybe I'll actually just, when I'm done with this one, I think maybe I'll do the quilt as you go on this side. I do have to repair this side yet, but I can get started so we can actually work on it tonight yet. All right, I'm gonna just trim this little edge off that I did. All right, I'm gonna press this. All right, and then I can trim that down, and that's our little fix for the evening. Do it from the back here. I'm just gonna line it with the edge that we already have. Yeah, I should have done this beforehand. You're totally right, Kathy. So I could have done this repair before we actually quilted it. That would have been smarter, because now I have this seam on the back and stuff too. That'll probably mostly be covered up. But yeah, in theory, before we did any quilting, I should have added a little extra on both of these sides, and I'll make sure that I pay attention to that next time. Actually, I think I already had these sewn together, so noted for next time. Definitely gonna measure and add a little bit extra. It will shrink a little bit, so I'll need to add a little bit more than I need to. But all right, that gets us far enough that I can do the quilt as you go on this side. So one thing the parts that we're going to need for the quilt as you go, we are going to need 2 sashing pieces. So we are going to need a sashing piece for the front, and we're going to need a sashing piece for the back. And they are 2 different sizes. So let me show you what I mean here. It is this piece right here, all the way down, and then this yellow piece on the back. Those are our 2 pieces. I already have a bunch pre-cut that we did another day. So these are all 13 inches long because my blocks are 13 inches. And oh, that one's not 13 inches. So maybe we made these ones longer to trim to 13 inches later. That could be. These look like just ends that I must have left. All right, let's do that. Let's use these. Yeah, I must have done all of them like that. Okay, so we need those. I believe this one is 1.5 inches wide. And then we need some sashing for the front. And for those, mine are 1 inch wide. And I have to actually construct it. So let's just grab a cute little centerpiece. So I'm making my sashing with the 2 pieces and the little square in the middle because I want them to mimic the pieces that I'm using to join the blocks. So I have these little cute little squares in the middle here. And so the sashing needs to be similar to that. So I'm going to start by making these sashing pieces. So if you're doing the quilt as you go, if you're doing it like how I am here, you're always going to have the 1.5 inch strip for the back and the 1 inch strip for the front here. I'm going to cut this in half so I have 2. There we go. All right. Making our little center square. Thanks, Jean. There we go. Now we get our second one in here. All right, so let's press this and then we'll have our 2 pieces ready. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, just the work put in these samplers, it definitely should be an heirloom piece. I mean, we only have 50 of the blocks done, and there's 50 more, and lots of them can take hours and hours and hours. There's definitely time and love put into this, and I think that's kind of partially what makes an heirloom piece, right? Okay, so we have our piece that goes here. That'll be cute, just right there. And then we have our back piece. Our back piece, we actually have to press it in half like this. And it's gonna almost be like a binding on the back. So one thing that you'll have to do is press it, and the wrong side of the fabric should be on the inside and the right side on the outside. So for mine, it's the same on either side because I'm using just a solid fabric. But if you're using patterned fabric, make sure that the wrong side is folded on the inside so the pretty side is on the outside when you're done. Just like a binding would be. All right, so I'm gonna fold this and we are gonna press all along the edge. So this is kind of an awkward thing to press, just this long strip like this. But it's not that long. We're not doing the whole binding yet. That would be extra long. Okay, so at this point we have all of the pieces we need. We have our back piece, our front little sashing piece, and we also have this side, and we are going to attach it to this piece that we already have going. I'm going to attach it to this edge. So these 2 edges will ultimately meet. So what we need to do first is attach these 2 to this piece. And we're going to do that all at the same time. So I am going to clip. All right, so we're going to put right sides together. So like that. And I'm actually going to try and line up my center square with the sashing in the middle. So I'm going to just put a temporary little clip right there. There, I have that white line here. I'm just trying to match the seams up to there so it's hopefully in line with the other piece here. All right, and then this back piece, the raw edge, so remember we folded it like this, the raw edge, I'm going to have touch this raw edge as well. So I'm going to just undo this clip I just did, grab that piece. All right, so now I have all three pieces kind of grabbed. Now I'm going to just kind of go along the edge and clip a little bit more. So we're matching all of those raw edges. And I could have started this right on the edge here. I don't know why I have that hanging over. It's just because I have extra. All right, let's clip that. You know what? Just because we have so much batting, so much stuff going on here, I am going to put a clip right on the end here. All right, and let's continue down on this side. All right, one more I think we'll get. Oh, you almost forgot to bring your plants in for the frost night. So we uncovered, this is our first night with our garden uncovered in the past few days. So in theory, our freeze warning is over. I'm a little scared, but we're going to see how they do tonight uncovered. All right, you guys, I'm going to just trim this off. I don't need this excess here. There we go. All right, now we're going to sew all of our layers. So 1, 2, 3, we're going to sew all of those layers just with our normal 1/4 inch seam allowance. There is a lot going on here though. Now we're a little thicker. I'm just using my same sewing machine, but in theory, this might be good to get a walking foot on or something that will help with that thickness. I'm not doing any of that, so we'll see how it goes with my machine here. I'm going to just be careful trying to get it all in here. Ooh, there we go. Ooh, it's working. I can hear it kerchunk along a little bit. So now when we're done with this, these little sashings that we're putting on, they won't have that same quilting effect to it. But it's going to be just subtle. You might see that if you're looking at it closely, but that's all. That's what you get with quilt as you go. But I think it's worth it. It's fun doing this quilt as you go technique. Ooh, I'm hoping I'm getting all my edges, that I have enough seam allowance here, and I didn't repair any of these side edges. Okay, there we are. All right, let's see how we did there. Kerchunking. Yeah, usually when it kerchunks a little louder, it means I'm almost out of bobbin. And actually, I might actually be almost out of bobbin. So we'll see how it goes. See how it goes tonight. All right, so there you can see we got all 3 layers sewn. If we flip this one forward, now we got our cute little square in that spot. And that is actually what we want to do next is we're going to press. But I'm going to press just this side over, and really you could almost just finger press it and you'd be okay. I think that's actually all I'm going to do. It seems to want to stay open just fine. So I'm just finger pressing this here. And now, so I left this. I'm not pressing this quite yet. I'm just going to let that dangle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab the piece that it's going to connect to. I think we have enough edge here. I don't think I need to repair that at all. All right, I'm going to put right sides together, and we are going to sew just this piece to just our white sashing piece. So all the rest of this we are going to just leave. So after we're sewing, this will be attached only to this white piece here. So I'm gonna pin it again, or clip it together again. I'm starting in the middle, again, just so I can line up my square with my sashing here. So let's go about like, I think that's pretty matched up. All right, let's clip that. Got some bulkiness here, a lot going on here now. All right, and let's get the top piece here matching up all nice. Grab all the clips that we used earlier. All right, and line it up in the middle there too. All right, same thing at the bottom. Let's line up the bottoms. So these measurements should all be right. This front sashing should be 13 inches tall, just like how we cut these block pieces. All right, and then just sewing down the edge there. And then we should have our pieces connected. So there's the little peak. All right, let's do it. Oh, Nolene's working on our dictionary here. Kerchunk equals machine noise indicating possible low bobbin. That is it. That'd be fun on a t-shirt. All right. Okay, we're started. Sewing with that 1/4 inch seam allowance again. Getting a little bulky here. Wow. Flinging stuff everywhere. All right. Approaching that center. I did look at the top yellow. I did not, this is just a flap right now. So I sewed it onto this side. I did not sew it to anything else yet. We are keeping it a flap like this. We are only sewing the white layers together right now. I think the blocks are, oh, I didn't check on that. Oh yes, they are. Phew. Yep, the blocks are both in the same direction. Yeah, I didn't sew one on upside down. Although you scared me. I am sewing it to the left side, not the right side of the block. All right, so let's take a look at that here. So, all right, if I open it up, yay, there we go. So here is our connection. Look, it's part of the quilt already. So this is our sashing piece. It looks just like the rest of it, but we're not quite done yet. So on the back, we have that flap here, right? So now, see, now we have those raw edges, right? That's the whole thing about quilt as you go. Like how, if you're quilting, how do you hide all your raw edges? And this is where that magic comes in. So we're connected with our front sashing piece. And then the back, since we used a 1/4 inch seam allowance, this should lay pretty flat. And then our flap should flip over everything that we sewed. Oh, look, I sewed a little edge on here. Oh, well, I'm just gonna, this might be a seam ripper situation, dang it. Look, I flipped this up. I might just, that might be in the quilt later. I think I might just cut that. Or should I seam rip that, do you think, you guys? Well, anyway, what we're going to do now is hand stitch this down. So this flips over like that, and we are going to hand stitch it like right along this other line here. And that's kind of the last step of this quilt as you go. And right here, we machine stitched it. So you can also machine stitch it down too if you want. I think it looks a little bit nicer when you hand stitch it. Let's see if I can find a hand stitched one that we did. Oh, this one we machine stitched it too. Man, we must have just got sick of hand stitching. But here, this one's hand stitched down. So we're just tacking down the little bit there. All right, I'll fix that little bit. so it flipped up when I sewed it there. So really I should unpick that little area and then just sew over that. Sew over that little bit, so might as well do it. At least it's not in the middle somewhere. I'm going to just unpick that tiny section here. I don't think I need to do much more than... Well, I suppose I need to go all the way down to here. Oh, Kathy, if you have carpal tunnel and can't stitch, you can totally stitch it down by machine. So this one, I've just, I've pressed it. So I've pressed it really well. And actually, I might have used kind of a smaller seam allowance to sew this on because this looks like I have a lot extra. But I just press it and then you can sew it right down. So you can just pin it flat and then sew the edge just like what I did there. You can even try and follow the line on the front if you wanted to. There we go. Now it's flipped down. I just need room for it, so I think we'll pick all the way to the edge out. There, that looks good. Good old seam ripper. There we go. Now it's there. Flip this back. All right, let's just tack this little seam together again. I think we're just gonna lift this up and start right in the middle there. My seam allowance, I think, is a little bit bigger too. We don't have that much of this flap to work with compared to usual. I have a little bit more of the flap left over, but I think, you know, this bulky, super bulky thread or batting that we're using for this particular block, I think is causing a few issues here and there. Even though it's super fun, the bulky fabric. All right, let's just continue on to this guy. So it might be a little difficult to stitch, but I think it'll be fine. There, our piece is nice now. All right, let's press this. Oh, first time I've seen you rip open a seam. Yep, I've been doing that more and more lately, I think. All right, I'm gonna get the iron out and I'm gonna just try and press this over as much as I can. We're going to try and press this flat, and that's going to help us stitch the seam together in a bit here. I do have kind of a lot of extra bulk. I might actually trim. I have not done this before, and I'm a little nervous to do it here, but I'm going to trim some of this bulk away here. Just because I think I made my seam allowance a little too big and I want it to lay a little flatter. So I'm just getting rid of like a 1/16 of an inch or something in some of these parts here. And hopefully try not to cut anything too much. There, that's just kind of laying flatter. I think that's all I'm going to do. All right, let's just give it a good press here. There we go. I'm just taking the point of this guy and pressing it over just a hair. This is going to be super helpful, this pressing. I'm trying not to squish the fabric, the quilting, too much, but that's going to poof up again once we wash it, so I'm not so worried about that. This is just going to help us get this going a little bit. All right. So all that's left is either hand stitching this or sewing it with the machine. If you want to sew it with the machine, just pin this down. You're going to want to kind of line it up with that seam that we did there. And we're going to just use it as our guide and stitch right along the edge there. I think I'm going to hand stitch it. And I think I'm going to start here and go this way. All right, so I'm going to grab some thread here. This is a little bit lighter than what I've been using, but I think I was supposed to use this to quilt, and I used a different color here, so that's okay. All right, and let's get Zeb out here too. Oh, you could glue it down. I think I'm going to just leave it, I just kind of like folding it over as I go. All right, let's grab some thread here. Ugh, man, my hands are just getting drier and drier today. Do any of you guys sleep with like gloves on with lotion or anything? I'm thinking maybe I need to start doing that. Even though it's gonna start being warm. Oh, good night, Jean. All right, so I'm gonna just tie a little knot here on the end. All right, and we are gonna just quilt, we're gonna hand stitch this just like how we would stitch on a binding. It's a little bit more awkward because we have the two pieces here. So I don't know if we'll finish it all tonight, but actually, you know what? I think we're gonna go this way. This feels more natural to me this way. There, like that. But yeah, if you want to, socks and Vaseline. Oh, you're afraid they'd come off the lotion gloves? Oh, and then get lotion everywhere. Oh, socks with, that's good. Oh, you did last night? Yeah, I mean, my hands are going nuts right now. All right, so I'm going to just come up through the back fabric and this little binding. Oops, sorry, you guys, down a little low there. I'm going to go through the back fabric and the binding fabric there. And I'm going to go in that spot one more time. You can for sure sew this down by machine, and this might be the only one that we hand stitch down this week. If we get another one done, I might just machine stitch it. All right, I'm going in the back fabric again, and then making a stitch, and I'm coming up through both the back fabric and that binding fabric again. Now I'm just in the back, going directly across, and then a stitch length over again through both the binding fabric, the sashing fabric, and the back fabric. So yeah, with Quilt As You Go, you could totally avoid all this hand stitching, but I kind of like it. I like stitching bindings, and this is kind of similar to that. So we are just gonna chill and stitch along the edge here, and that is it. Then our two pieces are connected. And that's the Quilt As You Go process. So we're just gonna kind of continue doing this. We'll quilt another piece. We do have a couple more of these blocks that are 4 sewn together that we could go ahead and quilt. And yeah, it'd be awesome to get another one of these sewn on you know, actually we have another one ready to go, that one that we hand quilted. We could stitch that, we could trim that to the 13 inches and do the quilt as you go process for that. And we could do the machine stitching for that one maybe, versus this hand stitching, because we'll probably have to finish this up tomorrow night yet. There, you can actually just do this flat, I think. How do I make them so small? They're actually, they're about a 1/4 inch apart here. But yeah, I'm just going directly across in the back fabric and then coming up through both that stitch length away. And you know, that one's even bigger than a quarter inch. But yeah, when you pull tight, then it ends up just being like this little tick mark, which is just kind of fun. So I'm just going right on the other side of that seam. Oh, Tara, I will get this up on YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies when I'm done here tonight, and we'll be doing this more this week. So we'll probably be doing this whole process again tomorrow. I think that's a good idea. We'll do this process again tomorrow, but we'll machine quilt it or machine stitch it on instead of the hand stitching that I'm doing now. And then later in the week, we'll quilt another block up. This is a bit finicky, this little part here, but again, I do kind of like the extra little hand stitching. Not for everyone, though. I know that, so there is the machine stitching option. But there, see, now our piece is together right here. Little bulky in here yet. Try and flatten that out. Get those ends to match up. Oh, you did the crock pot with paraffin and glycerin. I remember a weird kind of community ed, but like for kids class that I took, and we did that. We did the paraffin hand wax thing for nice smooth hands or whatever. Oh yeah, so here's, yeah, Tara, this is the process when you're doing the quilt as you go process. This is the actual connecting of the smaller squares that you're quilting together. So yeah, we'll definitely do it again tomorrow. And yeah, we'll continue this the rest of the week. I thought this was a nice break this week. Oops, sorry, a little close. A nice break from making blocks. We've been sewing blocks for this for a while, and I wanted to do some quilting. It seemed like a quilting kind of week. I'm about 1/3 of the way here. So I'm not going through all the way through the front to the front. I'm just trying to grab this back fabric and then the back fabric through the binding fabric. Going directly across from that stitch I just made, but just in the back, and then coming up through both again. And try not to stab myself along the way. That's the tricky part. All right. Oh, nice, Bonnie. All right, approaching halfway, not quite there yet. But there's all our little stitches along there. It's a little tough to stitch because you do have all this another piece up here compared to a binding where you don't. So I'm just kind of grabbing it and holding it down just because this is a more comfortable grip for me. And then I just have to make sure that I only sew through the one layer of fabric so I'm not stitching this back piece to what I'm doing. But this is cruising along still, so you get that machine stitching in and then the machine quilting, and then you just get to chill and hand stitch for a little bit. And my mom, when she was making this, if I remember right, she's been done with her quilt a long time ago, but I think she did quilt as you go as well. And she, stray fuzzle, she waited till right before she was going to sew the rows together to do all this hand stitching. So she just left this undone until she had to stitch them together. I'm doing it as I'm going here, but yeah, you could leave all these until you're ready to sew another row, like a long row to it. Oh, I probably should, Amy. So Amy's saying, should I secure every 10 stitches or so? So I could just go around this stitch again. Right there, and that's kind of securing it down, going around it again, and that's like if a thread breaks here, then maybe it'll stop by the time it gets there, but I haven't really been doing that. I figure there's enough stitches in here that it'll disperse the wear. I don't know. I suppose I should be doing that. All right, so Kathy, that's why tomorrow we're going to do this same process, but we are going to machine stitch this down instead of hand stitching. So this is the hand stitched version. Tomorrow we'll do the machine stitched. Yeah, I should probably be more paranoid, Amy. I think I'm just lazy. But yeah, every few stitches you could go around that spot again, and that, you know, then if one pops out for some reason, like one gets stuck or torn or wears away or something, in theory, it'll still be held in those other spots, and then then the repair in theory is smaller if you catch it. All right, we're about 3/4 of the way here. It's looking good, though. It's looking like how it's supposed to, so that's always good. Ooh, there, I managed to stab myself. So you can see it. I mean, it's not quilted like all the rest of this, but that's okay. So you will have like these little borders on the back. Some people actually do a different color. So then on the back, it's like all these kind of framed squares. So that's kind of cool too. You don't have to match the color like I'm doing now. Actually, I almost kind of wish that I didn't, because that'd be pretty cute. But I wanted to have just this kind of pale yellow for the background. And actually, I'm not sure I have enough yellow for this whole quilt, so we might end up with some white on the background too, which is kind of funny. I like when those little mishaps happen and you have to figure out a way to finish it. So we'll see. Definitely not that far yet. Got half of this quilt to go, for sure. At least in making the blocks. Ooh, I think I have got myself just enough thread. That's nice. Almost there. Oh, that's a good idea. I should check the bobbin. I only have the one. I might have a couple extra bobbins for this. I'm gonna have to, you know what? It's just time to clean this work area again. Can't find anything again, and when you can't find anything in your sewing room, that's like the signal that it's time to clean, right? I think that time is upon us. Oh, you guys, all of the remaining embroidery of the months were mailed today. So if you pre-ordered or just placed an order within the past day or so for the bundle, it went out today, so you should get it soon. You'll probably get it before we start stitching it next week, so I'm excited for that. That'll be fun. I actually think there's a couple left in the store yet. We ordered more supplies, so we had more kits than usual. For this time. So yeah, if you still want to stitch next week, it'll go out tomorrow. So you'll still have it for at least a portion of next week. I think there's like 5 more kits. You finally clean the machine after making all the masks. Oh man, I bet, Anna, that's a lot of work for a little machine. Unless you've cleaned and sorted, I can't remember where you put everything. Yep. All right, so now I'm at the end here. Now I'm gonna just go around that spot a couple times, and then I'll tie a knot too. So we're gonna go one more time, just going through both layers at that one point. That kind of gives it a little lock in place, and then I think I'm just gonna tie a knot on the front here. I mean, this is gonna get sewn over, so I'm not too worried about it. Just get a little knot going in there. All right, and then I'm just gonna tuck that thread away. There we go, good enough. I'm gonna put my needle back in my pin cushion in Zeb. Let's trim this and let's take a look. All right, you guys, our first quilt as you go for this week. So here's the back, just so you can see. Oh, this little, I don't know why we had those longer pieces. That can go away. But there we go. That is the back, all connected, and then the front all connected as well. So yay, these guys are matched up. So this is the one we did last night, and now it is part of this segment here. So we have 3 segments together. Our goal is 5. And then we'll have to do a big quilt as you go to get this whole row onto the row that we have done. But there we are, you guys. All right, I'm going to flip you around and we can take a closer look at this. All right, so let me show you it all together here. There, so this is this row so far. But yeah, you can see this is where that sashing was, but all these little squares, they all look the same throughout there, whether it's part of the sashing piece for the quilt as you go or was part of sewing the blocks together. See, so this is a sashing, then this is in the block, and then this is another sashing. This is the one from tonight. But there we go. Looking fun. Awesome, you guys. Thank you again. This is fun. I'm having a great time working on this project, and it was fun to take a break and do the machine quilting for it yesterday. So yeah, tomorrow we have that one extra, we have one more quilted block. So this one we quilted before. We actually hand quilted this one. So this one we can sew onto this guy that we just did somewhere. This one looks like, yeah, we'll need to trim this down and probably add some more fabric to some of these too, it looks like. So we'll do that tomorrow first, do that little repair. So thanks again, guys. I will get this up on YouTube if you wanted to see this whole process. I think it's kind of magic. It's magic that you can cut or sew this small little piece, quilt the whole thing, and then still have them join together as a full quilt later. It's awesome. All right, leaving for real now. Have a great evening, you guys. Good night.